Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So, we're here with another episode of the Basic Java Programming Language tutorial. I do apologize for the lapse we've had in episodes. Just been busy with work, and my kids have been getting sick lately with the cold weather. So it's been hard to get episodes recorded, but we're coming back, hopefully consistently, but no promises. So this episode, though, we're going to be talking about variables and data types. So in Java, everything you're going to interact with is an object of some kind. And how you create objects and instantiate them is using variables, and it's how you will hold these objects and reference them. And using variables, each variable needs a data type. So you need to know the different data types that come with Java that you can use so you know which ones you need to pick in certain scenarios because they do hold different types of values. So we're here in the same program from last episode, the Hello World program. We can stay in this file. There's no need to create a new file just yet. We can actually remove this line we created last time. So we'll start off, and I'm going to go over all of the primitive data types in Java. So primitive data types means these variables hold the actual value that you're assigning to it. And these are all data types that are provided with Java. These are not objects you create, like object types that you've created. They come with Java, and there is 8 of them, I think. We'll get them all listed out and recount, but I believe it's 8, and they each hold a different purpose. So the first, I think 6 of them are all going to be numerical values. They're going to hold some type of numerical data. The first one we'll go with is called a byte. We'll call it byte 1. So right here, the syntax for creating a variable is as follows, with the data type listed first, and then the variable name second. So this is a byte variable, and we've called it byte 1. Now to instantiate a variable or assign it its first value, we will do equals, and then we'll assign it its value of here 10. So a byte in Java is a numerical data type that holds values in between -128 to 127 whole numbers, so no decimals. So really small um, range in values it can hold. And then the next one is a short, so we'll name it short 1. This is also a numerical data type, whole numbers only. This one holds from -32,768 to 32,767. So we'll go up to 32,767. Right. The next one is an int, and this is the most common numerical data type you'll probably use. We'll call it int1. Int standing for integer, meaning a whole number. This holds from -2 to the 31st power to 2 to the 31st power minus 1. So it can hold very large numbers. So we'll just do 10,000. The next one is long. We'll do long1. This is also a numerical data type. This is also integers, so whole numbers, but it can hold more. So an int is a 32-bit signed integer, meaning it can hold 32 bytes worth of numbers, and long can hold 64 bytes worth. So bytes being, if you don't know in computer terms, a byte holds 0 or 1. Not this type of byte. Or sorry, a bit. A bit holds 0 or 1. Byte, a 1 byte is 8 bits. Um, so however many combinations of zeros and ones there is, that's what it means. So there's 2 to 60 to the 63rd power is how many different combinations of zeros and ones to represent different numbers this can hold. That probably is confusing, but it is kind of what's happening behind the scenes. It's not really necessary to know, um, but it can be good to learn about bits and how to represent numbers in the form of bits. Um, so, and a long is just can hold a larger number. So we'll do 100,000, which isn't the max, but that's just what we'll go with for demonstration purposes. So the next two we're going to show are floating point numbers. So you have a double, and this being a decimal number. So we have 10.0007. So all these four right here, bytes, shorts, ints, and longs, can only hold whole numbers. You cannot have a decimal. So doubles, you can hold a decimal. And it is a 64-bit decimal. So just like long is a 64-bit, whole numbers, this is a 64-bit, but um, using decimal places as well. The next one is a float. Float is also a decimal data type, but it's only 32 bits, so it's smaller than a double. It can't hold as many um, as as high of values. And if you see, if I just end it in a semicolon here, we get an error, and it's saying it cannot convert from double to float. So if you want to instantiate a float variable, like we're doing here, you have to put a lowercase f at the end of the decimal, so it knows that this is a float value, not a double. And then we have two more primitive data types. The next one being a Boolean. We'll just call it bool. So this is your logic operator, meaning um, this only has two values, true or false. Are the only values this can hold. So this is very good for checking if things are true or false. And you would just instantiate that by setting it equal to either one of those. So it's all lowercase. You can see how it's turned purple and it's recognized as a reserved word in Java. So the word true or false, all lowercase, cannot be used in any other way than using them as this Boolean value. So we can do true there, or we can do false. So we'll just leave it as true. The next one is a char, meaning a character. So characters are denoted by single quotes, and then they can hold one character. So you press your key one time on anything. It can be numbers, it can be letters, it can be symbols. Um, so we could do a comma is fine. We could do percent sign. Anything is fine, but only one character. If I go and try to add something else, we get an error saying it's an invalid character constant. So it has to be one character inside single quotes is how you denote a character. So those are all of the primitive data types in Java. The other data type you have are what's called a reference data type. Reference data type means that you're referencing where this object is. You're not holding the actual value. All of these primitive data types, they hold the actual value in that variable. But a reference data type, it's just referencing the object in memory. So the main reference data type, and that is straightly available to you in Java without having to import anything or use it from another library or creating an object type yourself, is called the string. So string 1. Strings are denoted by double quotes. Now, if you remember in the last episode, our Hello World program, the system.out.println method we used, we passed in a string value. And so that's what we're doing here. We're not passing it into a method, we're just creating a variable to hold a string value. Strings are denoted by double quotes. And so we'll type in our hello world just like we did in the program last time. But this time, instead of passing it in straight into a method, we're going to assign this string to this variable. So string 1 now holds this object, which is a string containing hello world. So string can contain any type of characters, any letters, numbers, symbols, as long as it's inside these double quotes. It can also hold white space like this space here. So these are your main data types in Java, and these are the ones you'll use a lot of the times. Anything else will be used, it will be a data type pulled in by an object provided to you by a library, an external library, or an object type that you've created yourself. So what we're going to do now is we'll print out all of these data types, all of these variables that we've created, so you can see what is returned when you reference these. So we'll do system.out.println, and then I'm going to copy this and just paste it a couple more times, and then we'll print out byte byte1. So what I did here is what is called concatenation. So you can concat strings to build a larger string. So here in the system.out.print, the only thing you can pass to this print method is a string. And so here we created our own string with byte colon space, but then we also want to print this byte variable. So how you do that is you come out of the double quotes, do a plus, and then the object name. So this is going to do is going to do a string concatenation. It's going to add this string to this variable. So let me go ahead and run this before I do anything else with these other prints. In fact, let me just comment these out. So you see right here, it printed byte colon 10, which is what this byte 1 holds. So we did another creation of a string object and then added to it the byte object so it prints all together. And we'll do that with the rest of them so we can see what they hold. Short 1, int 1, long 1, double 1, float 1, boolean, boolean 1, char character, and then string, and our string 1. And this is actually called bool, not boolean 1. So now if I run this, we see all our print statements, and they're printing the values that each of these variables hold. So another note to the string concatenation is println. Let's say we don't pass in a string. We pass in 5 plus int 1. So this is just the number 5. It's not a string, plus an object which is also a numerical value, not a string. So if we run this again, we actually get 10,005, not 10000 then 5. Now, if I did a string 10 plus int1 and ran it, you see down here it prints 10 and then it prints 10,000. It does not actually add these two values together. Even though this 10 is a number, we're putting it inside the quotes, making it a string object. And so it's just going to concat them. It's not going to actually add them together. But if we do 10 plus int1, it's actually going to do the arithmetic plus sign, not the string concatenation plus sign. And it will give us 10,010. Just a quick note there uh, that this plus sign can also mean addition, not just string concatenation. The next topic I do want to quickly cover in this episode is what is called casting. So it was kind of mentioned here when I remove this F. It says cannot convert from double to float. And one of the quick fixes it says here is add cast to float. So if we do that, what it will do is in front of this, it will put in parentheses the float data type. So what this is doing is this is casting this 10.05, which is actually a double because it doesn't have that F behind it. It's telling Java to actually cast this as a float value. And like we know we're providing a double here, but we want it to be a float. So that's one way you can do it. Another way is, so there's two things that casting does. It can widen your object or it can narrow your object. And what that means is, let's say we have int num1 equals 20, and then we have double 2 equals parentheses double num1. So we're turning this num1 integer into a double by casting it. So we're telling the program to, hey, take this integer here and just give it to me in the form of a double data type. And so this is widening. And actually here, I don't know if I covered this last episode, but you can comment in your code. Comment meaning you can write things, you can write lines or even blocks that will be ignored by the program. So you can add comments in here that you can go back and read to help understand what you've written, and the program will ignore it when it runs. So the way you do that is by 2 backslashes like this, and then anything on this line after that is completely ignored. Widening cast. So here, this is widening, meaning this has no floating point, but we're going to widen it to where now it will have floating points when we cast it. So we don't lose any data here. If in fact you could say it's getting more precise. Another option is narrowing, a narrowing cast, which is where you would take a double 3 equals 20.20. We will another int equals cast int double 3. This is narrowing. This is going to take this 20.20 and cast it into a data type that doesn't have decimal values. So we're going to lose this decimal. We're going to lose this accuracy for this variable. That's why it's called narrowing. You're losing some of the focus and some of the data on this object when you do that. So to show, we'll do some more system.out.prints to print these. Widening, and we'll do num1 widening int double 2 Then system.out.print narrowing double 3 int. I forgot the plus sign. All right. And I don't want it to print these because we've already looked at this. So if you want to comment multiple lines out, you highlight them and then control backslash and it will comment all the lines you have highlighted. So this is really good to do if you want to ignore a block of code, but you don't want to delete it so that you can still see it. You can comment it out. So this will be ignored by the program when it runs, but you can still see it here, so you can look at it and understand what was there, or if you need to go back and look at something. So now, because we only want to print these things, we don't care about this anymore. So we're going to run the program. So widening int, we have num1 is the 20, and double 2 is 20.0. Because it's now a double, it has to have at least one decimal. And so we've widened that to allow for that decimal point. However, if you see here, narrowing double, it started at 20.2, but when we cast it down to an int and we lose that decimal accuracy, we just get 20. We change this to 20.8, and it does not round up to 21. It just loses, it completely just drops the decimal. So we come back to 20. So that's where you're losing some of that accuracy. If you're trying to do some calculation that's very precise, and you need those decimal places, if you accidentally cast it to an int, or you do some type of operation that causes it to turn the result into an integer, you're going to lose some of that accuracy in the value. And that's going to be all we're going to cover in this episode. I know it was a lot, but these basic data types are a must-know in Java, and you can build off of them. And you need to know which ones you need to use in certain situations and what their limits are so you don't run into issues. Now, before the next episode, if you have time, play around with this program, create all different types of these objects and variables, and print them in all different kinds of combinations, just to kind of play around with it and get used to creating these variables and using them, and just kind of get used to what we've done so far. And we'll be back in the next episode to go over the next thing in your Java basic programming tutorial. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button, comment down below. I will make sure to try and read all the comments. Um, Please criticize, let me know what else you want to see. Um, Let me know if you have any trouble in your editor, and if you weren't able to follow along with this example. As always, thanks for watching.